We're continuing our study of Paul's letter to the Ephesians in this video by looking at chapter 6, verses 1 to 9. Now, we noted in our previous video that this whole section should be thought of in the context of submission. Chapter 5, verse 21 tells us to submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Submission, we learned, has two parts here. First, there's mutual submission. This is where we willingly, humbly lay our own rights and desires aside and serve others in love. Mutual submission. The second part has to do with authority. There's an established order of authority, and we are to follow it. And keep both mutuality and authority in mind as we read this section. Paul says this in Ephesians chapter 6. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may go well with you and that you may enjoy long life on the earth. Fathers, do not exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. Slaves, obey your earthly masters with respect and fear and with sincerity of heart, just as you would obey Christ. Obey them not only to win their favor when their eye is on you, but as slaves of Christ, doing the will of God from your heart. Serve wholeheartedly, as if you were serving the Lord, not people, because you know that the Lord will reward each one for whatever good they do, whether they are slave or free. And masters, treat your slaves in the same way. Do not threaten them, since you know that he who is both their master and yours is in heaven, and there is no favoritism with him. In the previous section, wives were told to submit to their husbands. Here, children are told to submit to their parents, and slaves are told to submit to their masters. We don't like to submit to others, but God calls us to do just that. And not just to obey in some kind of an angry or resentful way. We're called to submit with respect and with sincerity. We're to serve them as if we were serving God himself. Well, we don't like to submit to others, but as leaders we do like others to submit to us. Parents like to point out that children should submit to them. Employers like to point out that their workers should submit to them. But notice that every time Paul tells someone to submit to the person over them, he has instruction for the leader. Fathers, he says, do not exasperate your children. In other words, do not provoke them. Do not make them angry. Masters, or employers, he says, are to treat their employees with respect and sincerity. All of this, we need to remember, is because none of us is better than another. There is an order to things. There are leaders and there are masters, there are parents and children, but a husband is not better than a wife. A parent is not better than a child. An employer is not better than the people who work for him. We are called to submit to one another. We are called to put aside our own rights and our own desires to serve one another in love. We are to serve one another as we would serve God himself. Now imagine what your family would be like if you followed Paul's instruction here. Imagine what your marriage would be like if each of you put the other's needs ahead of your own. Imagine what your workplace would be like if everyone served one another in love as they serve God himself. Well, as always, there's lots about this passage we don't have time to get into. So I would love to hear your thoughts and your questions. Add them to the comment section for this video right here on Facebook. Please share the video with other people who might take advantage of it. Encourage your friends to like the Facebook page. The more of us there are here, the more of us we can encourage and equip and empower to be leaders in God's kingdom. I'll see you next time when we look at what Paul says about the armor of God.